And one last segment here on the Manitoba Sports Desk tonight, the AAA Hockey Report, brought to you by Super 8 West and CM McGrave. Again, Will Stryline, Theo Tuktakuluk, and plenty of action still underway in the midget AAA leagues here across. In girls play, the quarterfinals over already, I should say. Pembina Valley getting the best of Interlake. They advanced pretty quickly, 2-0 series there. Westman, as mentioned earlier, as we were talking with Aaron Wilgosh, they took down Central Plains with a 7-2 and 2-0 victory. And then Eastman getting the best of the Yellowhead Chiefs up in Shoal Lake. And that, again, those two games, however, going to overtime, both 2-1 victories. Game 1 is actually double overtime. Game 2 is a single frame, so the Yellowhead Chiefs doing everything they can, but the Eastman Selects getting the best of that. So that sets up the semifinals. Still working on the schedule. There's only about 2 games set to go as it stands right now, and that will be the Winnipeg Avros versus Eastman in the 1-5 game. And Game 1 is set for February 28th. Game 3 is set for March 4th. We don't have the other 3 games set for that yet as Eastman figures out their arena and their scheduling. And then the 2-3 game, as it works out, Pembina Valley taking on the Westman Wildcats. We're still waiting for the dates to be announced for that one, but that is how the semifinals of the Manitoba Female Midget Hockey League have shaped up here within the province. And we were chatting a little bit as the show goes on, obviously, with our guests. Midget AAA hockey for the boys as well. The couple games left to go. We can recap what happened here over the last couple games. A busy weekend, or busy week last week. On the 17th, it was Brandon getting by the Wild 5-4. The Thrashers getting a big 12-5 win over Norman. Eastman a 5-3 win over Yellowhead. Parkland beating Pembina Valley 5-1. It was Kenora getting a shootout victory, 4-3 over Interlake, and Central Plains beating Southwest 8-5. The next day, another 5 games hit the ice. The Bruins getting beaten by Central Plains 8-5. A 1-0 shootout victory for Southwest over Eastman. It's always fun when a game never sees a goal in regulation. There's a lot of tension in that one. Another shootout. There's 3 this night. Pembina Valley beating Parkland 6-5, and Kenora getting another one over Interlake 3-2, and then Brandon beating Yellowhead 8-2, and then we'll look forward to this week. A couple games pretty big now in the playoff race.
We have 1 game on Wednesday, 4 Friday, 5 Saturday, and then finally 4 on Sunday. There is a lot of jostling going on here, especially from the 5th through 9th spot in the AAA Midget Men's Hockey League here. Wednesday, we'll see the Wild take on the Central Plains. We already touched base with that with Mr. Aaron Wilgosh. Friday, the Bruins take on Norman. Brandon takes on Pembina Valley. Eastman takes on the Winnipeg Thrashers, and Parkland and Southwest will settle up on Friday night. Then we go to Saturday. One Saturday, we got 5 games. Yellowhead versus the Wild. Brandon and PV play that second game in 2 nights. Interlake versus the Thrashers. Bruins will take on Norman yet again, and Central Plains will then go to Kenora and take in the first game of their 2 set, which they'll finish on Sunday, because we have 4 more games on Sunday. Did we mention it's almost playoff hockey? It's Central Plains versus Kenora, the Thistles. Wild versus the Eastman, Southwest versus Parkland again, and Yellowhead versus Interlake. It is a barn burner action this upcoming weekend for these AAA teams because there is no playoffs yet. We're going to settle it all up, and we're going to get ready for playoffs the following week. Like we said earlier, Will, 5 through 9, there is only 5 points separating those teams.
Just about anything can happen. The Thrashers sitting at 53, Central Plains in that 9th spot at 48, and then you got Yellowhead, Pembina Valley, Southwest in the mix. And, you heard it from Aaron Wilgosh. He expects to see Central Plains jump as high as 6 quite easily here.
It's possible because if they have, like you said, the roster is healthy. There's very little injury. They're on a high, scoring 16 this past weekend. I mean, they have a potential to take 4, if not 6 points of their last 3 games, and you look like a team like Pembina Valley, who is struggling in the locker room, who is playing Brandon in the last 2 games of the weekend. I mean, they have a potential to go 0-4, and if they go 0-4, they're stuck, currently at 51, and Central Plains could go up to 52, which would mean they could be that 9th team, that 9th place team with no movement and out of the playoffs.
You can look at Southwest as well, a team with the potential to move up. They get a home-and-home series with the Parkland Rangers, who have struggled this year. They've only got 37 points and just 16 wins to show for it. So it's been a difficult season for them. So they get a home-and-home series there. So another team that potentially jumps up and leapfrogs Pembina Valley. So, yeah, in that middle race is as tight as can be. When you look at the 3-4 spots between the Bruins and Eastman, 61 points, 57 points, maybe Eastman gets the opportunity there. The Bruins, though, playing good hockey all season.
Bruins, like we said, like Aaron told us, they had a really short bench this past week, but they take on Norman, And Norman's not a really strong team, but they can always play that spoiler. I mean, this is a team that forgets quickly how well or how poorly they played in their previous game and get ready for that game that's coming up right away. They could play spoiler. I mean, but the thing is, the Bruins have so much offense, and they're led by Sven. The guys, really putting the puck in the net. They're a fast team, and they're a team that really plays a neutral zone collapse, and they really start by passing the puck wide, moving the puck wide, and then attacking forward. So I think the Bruins can outskate Norman for their 2 games. I think they could at least grab a couple of points, if not 4. I think they're solid in that 3rd spot.
And then there's 2 more spots, of course, in the playoffs that we're looking at. And if there was odds makers, these would be the 2 favorites, I would say, to get into the league final. The Winnipeg Wild and the Brandon Wheat Kings, both sitting with 38 wins and 2 overtime losses, 78 points. It gives them Winnipeg, however, 1 game in hand. So they've got the open go-ahead right now to get that number 1 spot heading into the postseason.
And I think that's going to matter when it boils down to the finals. I mean, the Winnipeg Wild, the Brandon Wheat Kings have been 1-2 the entire season. You look at their goals, 4 goals against, I mean, the Winnipeg Wild, 304 goals for to 97 against, incredible, and 250 to 117 respectfully for the Brandon Wheat Kings. So they're certainly not a slouch, but offensively, I mean, they're popping in 56 extra goals, and the Wild are a force to be reckoned with, led by Mr. Bettens, of course. I mean, you look at the top 7 scorers, 3 of them belong to the Wild, I think, 4 of them belong to the Wheat Kings. You look at the goaltending, I mean, it's Minor versus Minor, and you throw a Kilpatrick in there and a Hatfield. I mean, these 2 teams are stacked. And if you had to pick stacked teams to not make the finals, I'll take that bet that they will.
Yeah, and like the regular season games between them have been hard-fought contests. We had one here at the Iceplex earlier this season go into a shootout between the 2 teams. Very much, they stack up very well. It's from what I've seen, the Wild are a far more offensive team. It shows in Brandon. They like to run that cycle where Brandon kind of runs that stretch pass counterattack, and they've found success with it all season as well. So really that Minor and Minor as the matchups that I've seen so far this year, that's going to come down to it. The last game I saw between them, Miles Minor didn't look all too solid in net. Kind of figured it out late on as the Brandon Wheat Kings picked it up, and Winnipeg squeaking out the win in that one. But really, it comes down to the net minding for me in this series.
Absolutely, and you look at the stats are pretty similar between both of them. It's who's going to keep the puck out one more time than the other. It's really going to come down to it. Like you said, Brandon plays a controlled cycle game, and the Wild play that quick strike. The one thing that I've noticed with the Wild, they can be pretty with the puck when they should be more forceful with it. Instead of making that extra pass, they should get that extra shot. Both teams realize, though, that when that first shot hits net, the rebound clearance or the rebound collection to get a second chance is most important. And I can't remember which Minor faced a slap shot this past weekend from Big Buff, but
that would be Miles from the Wild.
Miles from the Wild faced a Big Buff slap shot or half slap shot.
The one-handed slap shot.
The one-hander commander from Big Buff. But needless to say, a little bit of fun for him. Look forward to these 2 teams come playoff run. Of course, we'll be mentioning them in the upcoming month because I'm sure they'll make it to the finals. Do you see a surprise team? I mean, if Central Plains gets into that 7, do you think they can make a run, or do you think they're going to get quickly halted? I mean, who's to say? I mean, the Bruins, maybe they're playing posse and maybe they're resting some of their players. I have no idea, and it's really up to the 3 to 8 team to really make a push if they want to do something in the finals.
I think the team that would be the upset here would probably be Central Plains. You heard it. They've got guys healthy. They've got a guy who's got 30-some-odd points in 15 hockey games. He's not missing the net, and he's being successful when he's putting the pucks on, which is a huge factor. You get against a team like the Bruins, and, you get an upset there. And then in the second round, maybe you got your legs, your confidence going with you when you take on the likes of the Winnipeg Wild or the Brandon Wheat Kings.
Let's quickly touch on the Thrashers. I mean, they're a Winnipeg team. They're sitting now in that 6 spot. They got 2 games this weekend. One against Eastman, which is ahead of them in the standings, and one against Interlake, I believe. Is it Interlake? I can't remember. Yes, Interlake on the Saturday. 2 out of 4, 4 out of 4, 0 out of 4. What does this team have to do to say, okay, we don't want to limp into the playoffs, but we got to make it to the playoffs, or else we're going to have trouble? It's
really a matter of a team that needs to find an identity. This is a team that, if you follow the Manitoba AAA Hockey League, you're used to seeing in the top 3 spots. a couple years back, they were the national champs. They have shown that they are a program that produces a winning program every year. So the fact that they're sitting right now in the middle in a potential still to be knocked out of the playoffs is quite surprising for them. You even look at the last couple games here. They go up and they get a 12-5 win over Norman, but the night before, the North Stars getting a 2-1 victory. So it's a team that really might need to have to find an identity. Are you going to be a puck control team? Are you going to be a dump and chase team? Are you going to be a defensive team and just wait for that counterpunch like the means of the Brandon Wheat Kings?
Or quite frankly, I think for the next 2 games, you have to be that team that if you have 5 goals scored against you, you got to score 6.
That helps.
You got to have that mentality, because if you don't, you've got 4 teams below you that are just waiting to smell blood
Chomping
in the
at the
water
bit.
and waiting to be that killer shark just to leapfrog you. Because quite frankly, I mean, the Thrashers, you are that pedigree of a great team. They just haven't shown it. And I think they themselves have to become the shark and say, we got to get ours. And we got to feed on the chum that's in front of us and get the 4 points.
So your underdogs, the Thrashers?
I think the Thrashers, I mean, I grew up in the Shark system. My brother grew up in the Shark system. I mean, that's, we've always been keen to the Thrashers program. But I tell you, there's such a great group of guys playing for Central Plains, and they're healthy and they're strong. I like what he's been done over the last month or so. They're staying in the thick of things. They're staying in that spot, that 4th spot. And I really like the way the Bruins play. I mean, quite frankly, when they take on the Blues, I like them as my underdog, and here's why. They play under your skin. They get just under, they put the stick in there. They get you to cause that retaliation penalty. They get on the power play. I really like what their coaching staff does by stretching the play east and west and then moving north and south. Their defensemen move the puck extremely well. As a defenseman, you learn to take 2 quick steps, pick your head up, make a play forward, and they do that very well, the Bruins organization. Their first year in AAA hockey, they've done very well. We've interviewed a lot of their players over the year, and they've done very good recruiting. But more often, the thing that I noticed with the players was it's not because they played with each other this often. It's because they know them so well that their teammates playing against them. And knowing what they do well as teammates against them, that's made them that much stronger to play together. So I like the Bruins to maybe be that dark horse outside of 1-2.
All right.
Anything else you want to add about AAA hockey today?
That is all I got, my friend.
That is all we have today. Manitoba Sports Desk, round 3. Will Stryline, Theo Tutkaluk with you, bringing more goodness to the greatness. I told Roy I would say it. There it is. Have yourself a great evening. Happy Louis Riel Day. Happy Family Day. Enjoy your work day tomorrow morning.
Good night.